You've got a player who wrote 3 pages of a tragic backstory. Another handed you 2 sentences, and one of them just said, "I hate goblins." So how do you take that wildly varied material and actually use it to fuel your campaign? Today, on the Bearded Nerd podcast, I'm going to show you how to turn player backstories into narrative gold without railroading the group or overwhelming yourself as the GM. These are the same techniques I use in my own campaigns to create emotionally powerful arcs, personalized stakes, and sessions that players never forget. If you're interested in obtaining the Backstory Integration Toolkit, be sure to stay with us until the end of the episode. With that being said, let's dive into this episode of the Bearded Nerd Podcast. As we begin, let's tackle why backstories matter. In my opinion, a good backstory helps you tie characters to your world. It establishes their motivations and the emotional hooks that you can use. It plants plot seeds that grow organically, and it makes your players feel seen. A great backstory isn't just character development, it's campaign development in disguise. Now, there is a limit. I love what Matt Colville said recently in one of his YouTube videos regarding their Draw Steel campaign that they're playing. If you haven't seen it, go check out Matt Colville and all the wonderful things MCDM is doing right now. Matt Colville, though, speaks about how he really encourages players to have a maximum 1-paragraph backstory, providing the GM, or in Draw Steel's case, the director, enough information to work and grow with. If you provide everything that you think the GM needs, 1, the GM's not going to read it. 2, it's just going to overwhelm the GM and they're probably going to kind of toss it aside. But 3, it makes everything important, therefore nothing important. When I thought about that, it made sense. I have had backstories from players that were 1, 2, 3 pages, and I used to emphatically read them. Now, with 2 kids and a crazy busy life, I don't have time. So a paragraph of a backstory is fine. It's great. And what it helps you do when you write that short but sweet backstory, it allows me as a GM to kind of take what the player wants and then grow it from there. Now, you can go more than a page or a paragraph if you want, but in my opinion, 1 paragraph to 1 page is fine. But let's talk about the techniques of integrating backstories, though, because that is the meat and potatoes. What you're going to do when you take that backstory, you are going to look for anchors and you're not going to look for arcs. All you need is an anchor. You don't need to use the whole thing. You just have to pull out names or places or even rivalries and regrets and fears. That is all you need. Here's an example. He fled a burning monastery, ... right? Maybe what you do instead is he fled a burning monastery. Write a question. Who is he? Think about it, and then maybe you come up with an answer. The villain. Maybe one of the villains in the arc fled, or is tied rather, to that fire and therefore fled. From there, make the backstory relevant to what's happening to you, or rather what's happening right now to you and the rest of the group. Connect their past to the present conflict. Introduce a faction or NPCs or dilemmas from their past right when it matters the most. Let's say they're negotiating a peace treaty and suddenly a general from the bard's homeland enters the room, and maybe the bard had a military background but fled to become, a bard. And that general is a friend of their father's, right? that stoic kind of military personnel or personnel type that you would see in like movies and books and whatnot. That type of persona, bring them in when something like that is happening. You can always weave in and out those things and those people and places, but it has to make sense. From there, recycle and reframe. We've spoken about lifting and shifting, but hey, you can do this now too when it comes to this specific context. You got something that is kind of a side plot. Well, attach it to the backstory. Maybe a villain's motives or their old secrets could be tied to the player character so that it makes it personal, right? Maybe there's a relic that you really want the players to find and you had that planned 9 sessions ago. But now, as the fighter's scarred past is being revealed, you tie that relic to it. So that way you're not wasting a magic item that you've created and lore that you've written, but you can now tie that into their backstory. And if you remember from a couple of episodes back, how we talked about using items and using things to immerse your players and to connect your players, making the world feel alive, this is one of those moments where you get to do that. It's a multi-prong approach if you think of it from a strategic perspective. You're doing this on multiple levels to really immerse your players in a wonderful story. Now, we don't have to resolve the backstory all at once. It doesn't have to be once and done, right? Or one and done, if you will. You can just use an echo, not an ending. Okay, let me repeat that. Use an echo, not an ending. What that means is that you're not going to resolve everything at once. You're going to let it echo through the campaign so that there's a little bit of mystery, a little bit of reveal, and then a little bit of resolution. And then if you need to, it kind of resurfaces. But typically you want the resolution to be the final resolution. So the first echo, and again, think of it like a phase. Phase 1 or echo 1, a letter from a lost sibling. Then let time kind of pass, let them discover, find the mystery, kind of go down that rabbit hole. Echo 2, a faction tied to that same family or sibling, right? Again, repeat. Let things kind of go, keep going forward, so on and so forth. Echo 3, a choice. Protect the party or face the past. Very simple. It provides the player with a choice and then consequences to follow afterward. However, before you do any of this, and really it starts at session 0, ask for the player's consent and their buy-in, right? Before dropping a big plot twist from someone's backstory, ask them first. Involve the player in how it unfolds. You can even say, hey, I have a cool idea for your family arc. Do you want to co-write it? How it shows up? What do you think would be the way that your character would see it fit? That does not mean that you follow 100% what they do. You want to add a little bit of mystery, right? But what you could do is say, hey, I have a cool idea for your family arc. I have a couple of ideas of how it would happen. What are some ways that you as a player think that it would happen? And then I will think about it and then surprise you from there. You're giving them that ability to have character or personal buy-in, but it allows them to have a little bit of consent over it, right? You don't want to pull something out of the past and then all of a sudden they're like, yo, what the heck, man? Why'd you do that? Because I wrote this as part of my tragic past because I'm working to deal with it. Which again, mind you, from a player perspective, D&D is therapeutic. It's not therapy, in my opinion. But just have that consent. It's always just good to have that kind of like heads up. Now, let's say you have all this ready. You're going to start working on it. You need some tools to track it, right? So what I would highly recommend is that you have a backstory tracker. It's a sort of Word document or index with key NPCs and factions and themes for each PC. right? These are going to be things that you can track and bring in and out of different sessions. From there, keep a journal. Jot, 1 or 2 potential future encounters per player that involves these factions or NPCs or themes, okay? That's going to be really important. And then finally, an echo timeline. Map 2 or 3 points across the timeline or the campaign where a backstory could resurface, right? And if you include spotlight rotation, each player will have a personal episode over time, which will really make your world feel alive. This is exactly what Critical Role has done in Campaign 1, for sure, and most likely in Campaigns 2 and 3. So, backstories, remember, are the treasure map to your campaign. They can point you towards conflict, emotion, character-driven storylines, and best of all, your players really care about them. So dig into what your players gave you, pull out that gold, and let it shape the story they get to help tell. If you want the Backstory Integration Toolkit, again, it includes echo prompts, tracker templates, and a session hook idea, or multiple ideas rather. Join us over at the Guildhall on Patreon. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like this episode, but more importantly, make sure to comment, leave a 5-star review. That really helps the podcast grow even more so that it can help other GMs around the world get better. With that being said, y'all, thank you so much for listening. I hope you're doing well. Remember to be kind and compassionate to one another. And as always, folks, keep gaming.